Hey guys, welcome to Famous Last Words. My name is Evan DeGraff, and I'm your host for today's show. Famous Last Words is just kind of the interview show where we sit down with someone in the community who I feel like their story should be told more and have more in depth. And today's guest is none other than Chris Clark 8788. Yeah, that's one. The ones whose numbers mean nothing. The one who is practically known as the editor of every single Schmoedown after show. The one who kind of like revolutionized the whole shebang here. But before we actually get introduced and meet him to all of you guys, just a couple of things we need to run down. Tomorrow, I take over his show, Suddenly Soundtracks. We're going live 10 p.m. EST. Myself, Alex Marzonia, Maxwell Haddad, and PJ Campbell. We are going to be talking about the musical Hamilton. We're going to be going down each song by song, and we're going to be rating it each one 1 out of 5. And we're going to see what we think about the music of what I would call the biggest, most impactful piece of art, maybe of the decade. If Kendrick Lamar's "To Pimp a Butterfly" didn't come out, that's a different conversation for a different day. And then Friday, we're watching Psych, the movie. This was all PJ Campbell's idea, not mine, but he's dragging me along with him. So we're watching Psych. Never even seen this show. All I know is a pineapple, and the closest thing I remind myself of a pineapple with is the SpongeBob show. Last but not least, Family Feud, Saturday. Chris Clark has something big in store for you guys, so stay tuned. I'm really excited. But with that, I bid adieu. My great friend, Chris Clark. Welcome to Famous Last Words. How are you doing, dude?
I'm doing fun, Evan. I won't lie to you guys. I'm kind of like a little nervous. I'm just like a little stage fright, but this should be fun, Evan. I'm ready to hear anything you want to talk about. Let's rock this sucker.
You're ready to hear. You're the one doing the talking. You realize that,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Of course. Yes.
Is this alcohol on stream for Chris too? Is he that stressed?
No, it's water. No, it's beer. No, it's water. It's water. I'm hot in here because I turned off my air conditioner, Evan,
Why'd you turn off your AC?
for sound because I'm a professional and I did this for you. But
You have a Yeti mic that probably costs $300, and
uh-huh.
you need to turn off your AC unit.
Yep.
As I literally have Spotify blasting right now.
Oh, you do? Okay, that's ridiculous.
But can you hear it?
No, I can't.
That's how you know the mic's top tier. But anyways, how you been recently? We haven't been on camera in a hot minute together. Just
Nope.
through getting stuck in Tallahassee and you doing professional Chris Clark things, which I don't know what those are. How have you been?
I've been fine. I've actually been working on a show that we're going to be doing. I'm not announcing it yet, but there's a lot of hoops I'm hopping, and hopefully the show that hopefully you guys will be able to go to will be able to, of course, COVID pending. We're gonna be planning this show, and it's gonna be great. So that's what I've been working on. I've been talking with my band. I've been figuring out set lists. Set lists are very important to a show. They're the skeleton of the show. Yeah, so I've just been busy producing that, editing a future episode of Suddenly Soundtracks, Newsies with Kevin Smets. So it's just been very, very busy.
Yeah, I obviously, and I think what's cool about COVID, at least for me and maybe you as well, like we're
Cool
able
about COVID.
hey, yeah, give it a second. Like we're all able to do our hobbies now in a much easier and a much less stressful capacity because we're not having to work.
Yeah, true. It just with COVID, it also gets in the way of actual kind of production and stuff you actually want to do because you don't know because it's an unknown. Like we don't know what we're gonna be like in 3 months, even 2 weeks. So it's just a lot of uncertainty, and it's very hard to plan stuff when there's a lot of money on the line when you're trying
Right.
to do what I'm trying to do. So yeah.
So, Chris, take me through your COVID journey, because obviously I know you can't say too much, but you work at a certain place that has screens in it. And
Oh,
obviously,
I work at a movie theater. I'm not going to.
okay.
Yeah, I work at a. I'm not going to disclose just because of professionalism. I don't want people creeping on me at work, but I do work at a movie theater. Yeah.
And what happened? Like, what happened there through COVID for you?
Well, for COVID, during the whole COVID situation, the first inkling that I knew something was wrong was that 007, the movie 007 got pushed back. And that was the first sign anything was going wrong. Then after New Year's, of course, I had a show planned with my band for Bucks County. and we were planning for March 13th. And March 13th is known now as the day where everything went to shit in the United States.
That's true.
So, yeah. So, and we
The
were
day of
booked.
reckoning.
We were booked on the 13th, and 2 days prior to that, my show got canceled after we put a lot of money into it and a lot of rehearsal time into it, and everything just went kaput after that. And I got furloughed from my place of work, the theater. And yeah, it's just the good thing about it is that, unlike sadly where you live, Evan, unemployment here in Pennsylvania is kick ass. So we've been kind of covered because our governor isn't dumb. So yeah, I'm not going to get too political, but yeah, we've been taken care of well in Pennsylvania. But it just sucks that my show got canceled. Everything was furloughed, and now people are dying. It's just a shitty situation.
So, how do you think you personally, and I guess your whole family too, how have you guys reacted to it? Like positively, negatively? Like, have you guys taken some like things to better yourselves? Because I know that's a lot of things that people are doing during COVID. Is like, oh, I'm gonna take on this hobby so I can better myself, or you just kind of just seeing if you can survive it as long as you can.
I'm just focusing on a lot of stuff. I'm focusing on editing my shows. I'm focusing on the PJ Campbell Network, keeping the feed up to date. It's a lot of. It's good to keep myself focused because I've been so busy the past 2 years. It's why I had to step down for other personal reasons from not dealing with the guys because I love Brad and Frank. I had to step down from Rundown because I had it's a lot of personal stuff. So and a
Right.
lot. It's very busy.
So then from there, we've covered COVID a little bit. It's definitely an interesting time, but that's how you and I were able to reconnect. Through all this, we were
Yeah.
able to actually start making content together again. A family game night took off. It definitely with a hitch, but it took off.
Hmm.
Famous last words exists. I finally convinced you to put suddenly soundtracks back on, which God, dude, what a blessing. I'm really excited to take over your show on Wednesday. Not gonna lie.
Yeah, suddenly soundtracks. For those of you guys who don't know, it used to be on a channel called Take Three Productions, and that's actually where me and Evan first. I met Evan through. We were producing a TV series. Again, I'm not going to get too much into that because that's also going to be that's still in the production phase. Obviously, we were going to actually shoot the first script of. It's a TV show about the Penguin, Batman the Penguin, called Cobblepot the series. We were going
As
to
you
shoot
literally
it.
say, you can't say too much, and then you keep saying stuff.
Well, I'm not going to say too much about like the plot and stuff, but essentially it's that we were going to shoot that in the summer, but that's now out of the question because who knows where New York's going to be at that point. You cannot plan shooting stuff like that during this. It's just impossible. But that's when me and Evan met. I contacted him when we were part of the Schmoedown Facebook group, which we still are. And I was like, hey, do you want to produce something? We got on Skype, we talked, and then I made mutual friends with everybody on Take Three. And then me and who was running Take Three at the time, a man named Chris Doman, we did this song, The Ballad of the Beast, which was a song dedicated to William Bibiani. That kind of took off in the community, and that's how I sort of got known in the community, was because of Ballad of the Beast. And then my love of Bibiani, Robert Meyer Burnett, Whitney Seibold, and then the whole shtick came. And yeah, it's just that whole Schmoedown community is great, and I still am a part of it. I'm just not as active because of how busy I've been.
So let's kind of get into that. So you
Yeah.
talked about shooting different TV shows, doing different things.
Hmm.
Where do you think your love for like movies, like media in general, came from?
My dad. When I was young, I know you know this story, Evan. I've told this story on. There's an episode of Matt Kearns' show, the movie Fandoms show, where we talked about this film, where I went into it on Take Three. It's when I was in, what was it? When I was 5 years old, I had a birthday party at McDonald's, and my dad got me a yeah, my dad got me a VHS tape of King Kong 1933. It was the VHS tape that when you pressed it, Kong would growl. And I have that vividly in my memory at 5 years old. We watched it together, and I wouldn't watch the Kong scenes because I was so afraid. But I was so captivated by the movie itself and the effects itself at such a young age that I asked my dad to rewatch it with me again the night after. And I was fascinated. I was still scared to shit from Kong, but I was fascinated by that film and how that film film was created and how the filmmakers did the sound, the music. And as I grew older, I watched it and I looked at it more from a filmmaker perspective, and I wanted to make a film like it, or I wanted to create something like it. So I would draw uh, storyboards of my little movies in my head, and it just made me want to tell stories through a medium that just seemed inaccessible at the time because of finances. And my dad loved movies, and yeah, so Kong has always been is what made me want to pursue my dream of just making films and making art, which I still do today. I get to edit, which is the main thing that Kong revolutionized, was editing and how you cut film to sound to picture. If in 1933 that was unheard of, it was more like you shot, and it was a silent movie era where it was all timed to pre-stocked music. So Kong revolutionized a lot, and that film made me almost the person I am today. So yeah.
So, you start with Con, and obviously you love Con 33. You still do. The posters behind
Yeah,
you.
I know that it doesn't age well in this climate, but there's a lot of stereotypes that probably would not fly at all today. But that's not the point. The focus is Kong and how that portion of the movie was made. So yeah, but yeah,
Yeah. So we get there obviously, and you love Con, and it's one of your favorite things. So with that, you also fell in love with Penguin, and I still don't know how. How is Penguin one of your favorite characters?
wow, you went to the the penguin when I was a kid too. I was born in '91. So I grew up with the VHS tapes of Batman '89 through Batman and Robin.
Yeah.
Uh, when I was a kid, I would watch the film. I actually don't think I've ever told you this. Matilda is why. Because Matilda, it's directed by Danny DeVito, and I was fascinated by Matilda, that film as a kid as well. Watching that, I was like, oh, Danny DeVito, he's really cool. He reminds me of something. And my mom, I remembered, showed me, it was my mom this time, she showed me Batman Returns. And I put two and two together, and then I was fascinated by Danny DeVito's performance as Penguin and how you morph yourself into something that vulgar and disgusting and have that sort of charisma, because I gravitated towards a character with layers and layers of clothing that would move his hands and have his facial expressions speak what he was speaking. And I loved how it was performed. The performance of Penguin that Danny DeVito did grabs you, and not dissimilar to what my favorite actor of all time, Philip Seymour Hoffman, does, where it's all about how you command that screen. And that character at such a young age, even though he was vile and disgusting, he just oozed charisma, and I just liked the way he looked. He was cool, and I was like, you know what? That deserves some. I was fascinated by the character. I wanted to make my own stories about the character. As I grew older, I tend to gravitate towards the big guys that kind of have a lot of charisma. I love Appa from Avatar: The Last Airbender. I like my favorite Pokemon is Snorlax. I like Wailord. It's just a lot of the big people, big things. Jabba the Hutt is also one of my favorite characters from Star Wars because of how he looks on screen. That's a puppet like King Kong was. It's just a lot of all my favorite characters are kind of morphed into something that would look good on screen. That's just an effect, and I like
Right.
it. Yeah.
So then with all that, and your love for things that take command of the screen,
Yeah.
You do theater first, right?
Yeah. What are you asking about theater?
Like you did theater first in high school.
Oh, I did theater in high school. I was Mr. Mushnik in Little Shop of Horrors. I did a dual role of Cogsworth, and I played Mrs. Potts in Beauty and the Beast. And then I was also an extra because Cogsworth was sick, and instead of using me, they used another backup Logan. So since Mrs. Potts was also, because I was double cast with Potts as well. I actually ended up being a butcher for like the first two opening weekends of our show in high school. But anyway, I did that. I was also Eddie and Dr. Scott at the Bucks County Playhouse. I did at St. John's University. I was in a bunch of cabarets where we do at St. John's University this thing called the annual cabaret for charity.
Right.
Just a bunch of songs. Did Elton John, Meatloaf, all that stuff. So yeah, theater just besides the stuff with my band, theater in general is great. I just don't have time for it.
But is that where you started with your performance, like past like filmmaking and stuff? Didn't you start in theater?
Oh yeah, I mean that I in middle school and theater, it's always just been a part of me. With yeah, it's just a lot of when you're on stage and when you're in a theater production or anything, a lot of things just mesh with you when you're on that stage.
Mm.
You look at the audience, you look out into the audience, and you forget. I forget anything I do on stage. And when you're thinking about a performance or the atmosphere of a performance, or whatever you're doing, or when I was Mr. Mushnick and I would get eaten by the giant plant, it's all about putting yourself into that character. Even when I sing a song, I'm not singing. It's a character. You put yourself in the character of the moment. And if you can't grasp the character of a song you're singing or a performance you're doing, you're just a shell. And yeah, so theater is also a pivotal thing in my personality.
So then when did you decide, you know what, I'm going to become a film major and take yourself down that road?
I've always thought I was going to be a film major because look, even in school when I did theater, I knew that there was an art, as I said when I was watching Kong, there's an art to having control of what is shown.
Right.
Because when you're doing theater, everything is on that stage, mistakes included, and that's phenomenal. But it's also fun to tinker, and it's also fun to have control of what the final product is. And that's where my love of editing came in, and I was like, you know what, acting is great, but editing you have more control, and editing you have more security. You don't have to worry about getting into a character. All you have to do is just worry about your skill, and that is the focal point. Because getting into character is a skill, but it is also an emotional journey. And you don't have to go on the emotional journey when you're editing. You just have to find the rhythm.
So are you
And
saying you're playing a character right now?
what do you mean?
Since you're live and you can't touch this?
I mean, everybody's actually a character when they're on screen. Even if you can't just be yourself, because you have to know that you're watching, that people are watching you. No, you can't. Even if you don't try, you are a character on camera, because if you know that you're live like we are right now, you have to present the best self of you. You're not going to stream yourself lying in bed without pants, eating Cheetos and watching YouTube, which we all do. We're fine. We're all clean cut. And yeah, freshly showered and everything. So even when you're on camera, Evan, you're playing a character, even if you don't know it.
That's a conversation and a half.
Yeah.
I don't know. Chat, tell me what you guys think about that. We're all playing a character amongst ourselves.
What do you think?
I now that I'm being interviewed in front of us, so I don't know if I agree with that. Like, because all of my all of my weird tendencies still come out. I used to clean cut, clean shaved. I'm not clean cut and clean shaved.
Of course, but you're still performing. You're still on screen. You're talking.
But you can perform it for yourself. You know, like Jimmy Buffett. Like,
well, we are
himself on
we're
stage.
As close to ourselves as anything, but we don't normally in normal talk like this. It's just, I don't know. It's hard to explain. I feel like everything is a performance. But right now, obviously, we're just ourselves. But I mean, it's still a performance. You're still performing, and it's a very fine line, I guess.
Okay. Moving on.
All right, go for it, bud.
Talk about when you're in film school. How do you decide, Mike? Okay, take notes for this for your podcast. I recommend being as close to yourself as you can be, because that is you, and it's easier to perform as yourself than it is as anyone else.
Exactly. I mean, we're not being fake. We're both being like ourselves. But I mean, just in general, if you're looking at YouTube as a stage, and we're still stand-up comedians, or we're still somebody talking like in a Q&A sort of thing, you have to present your best self. And when you present your best self, you're performing.
You know what? I appreciate that, but I highly doubt this is my best self, which I think is peak.
Well,
Anyway,
well, there is
anyways,
no best self rep.
moving on. How do you like when you go to film school, St. John specifically, because that's one hell of a school in New York. You went to school in New York City. Does that still blow you away?
I spent 5 years, 2012 to 2016. That's 4 years. 4 years of my life in the greatest city of all time. I will stand by that. Pat will
Boston
stand
literally
by that.
exists. Boston literally exists.
New York is my home. I love New York. It sucks what's happened now, but yeah, I went to St. John's. I met some lifelong friends at St. John's. Um, it was a great experience. I've learned a lot, and I actually I majored in film and I minored in theater just because I wanted the theater electives to count towards the money I was praying for. So it's just yes, St. John's was a great experience.
As
Oh,
they said, as they said in your favorite musical, in New York, you can be a new man. Um, so but take me, how do you think like St. John's formed you as a person, and like what changed from little Chris Clark idolizing Con 33 or idolizing, being on a stage to what you are now, seasoned editor, producer, like what kind of things.
St. John's didn't change me. What
No.
changed me? Nope. What changed me was actually Bucks County Community College.
Okay.
St. John's was a transformation. Like at St. John's was I transferred from Bucks County Community College to St. John's. St. John's is a great university. The people made that what it was, not necessarily the university itself. The theater department, the people were great. St. John's is a great school. I'm more attached there towards what I experienced with the people. With Bucks County Community College is where I learned my passion for film. And my passion was taught by great professors. I'm not going to name them by name because of privacy reasons, but I had great professors, great people around me. I made my first feature film. That was the first person at Bucks County Community College to make a feature for a final that was over an hour long. It's shit now, but looking back at it, but it was still a proud achievement. Also, Bucks is where I made a lot of good connections for future shows and stuff. And it's just a lot of material that I and passion of film I got from Bucks County Community College. I would stay there from 10 a.m. to 12 a.m. I would. It was like 12-hour days with the best people and the best resources. St. John's, as great as the people were and living in New York was, as a film school, it felt very um, mediocre to Bucks County Community College in terms of what you were taught for film wise. It was more the theater side of things at St. John's, which was great. And and at St. John's I got the accreditation for Premiere and editing of Photoshop, but at the end of the day, I got more from when I was closer to home at Bucks. So yeah, I know
Interesting.
that's surprising because it's a university, but I got more out of that university from the experiences outside of
Yeah, that tends to be true for a lot of people. Mike K
it.
also has a question. Is St. John's where you met the other members in your band? If you want to get into that.
Yeah, my band actually, if you guys have watched the show, I recently unlisted it because it spoils a lot of the songs we're doing, and I don't know if I want that show out there just yet because I kind of want to fine tune the set list. But because we added, I'll say this, we added Elton John into the show. So yeah, but
Smart choice. Smart
uh,
choice. I told you needed another
yeah,
musician, and you
and
pulled it out.
well,
Pulled it off.
I mean, if we're getting into band talk, Elton John, Meatloaf, and Billy Joel have the same style. It's objective. It's hard. It's piano. It's rock, and they also tell stories with a melodical tone. And each song, kind of every song in their respective catalogs, really mesh with each other when you're structuring a set list. Now, yes, every single member of my band went to St. John's except my piano player and my drummer. Um,
It's always the
uh,
drummer.
yeah, my old drummer did, Sean. But the new drummer, because Sean has, he has what do you call it, job and stuff. He couldn't really commit to incorporating more Elton into the show, and that would require more rehearsals. And now the rehearsal situation is a little bit more is an issue. So actually, they're coming to Pennsylvania at Bucks County Community College. We're renting out a room and we're rehearsing once a month instead of us rehearsing in New York City, which would have been a mess. So, but yeah, the show itself is Billy Joel, Elton John, and Meatloaf, and structuring a set list. Evan, I know you know, is pretty difficult, especially when you're incorporating three artists. And most people think that creating a set list means you have to put the hits in, and it's not necessarily what's the biggest hit. It's what flows into each track and the flow of the show itself. Yeah, what's your you've made set lists, right, Evan?
So my set list, like at the end of the day, I'm pretty much a Jimmy Buffett cover boy. Um,
No,
but
there's no problem with that.
but it's like probably half his music is there, and the other half is super mixed, like 90s, early 2000s, some country music, but like a lot of like 90s rock is there. When it comes down to like my bullet, my opener and my closer are usually the first two I set. What's my opener? What's my closer? The rest then becomes when is my brown eyed girl going? When does the slow melodic love song play? And trying to figure out how all that can kind of mush in together. Because like there's obvious tracks that should follow an opener and come before a closer. There's an obvious song that should end a half your set right before your break. There's songs that are obvious that should open up after your break. It's kind of that little in between. How can you keep the crowd going? And personally, for me, I like playing songs that are popular enough to keep that crowd going. Because if the crowd doesn't know the song, especially since you are a cover band / artist, they're gonna check out, and that's the sad reality.
Not necessarily true when you have a distinctive niche. Because yes, when you're a cover band, you need to do hits because you're limiting yourself to a vast majority of discographies of various artists. But when you're centered around only three, you have creativity to go through each individual discography and know that this audience is here to see Elton John, Meatloaf, and Billy Joel. They're not here to see hits on 98.1 FM radio. They're here to see the songs of Billy Joel and John. I mean, so you can actually like what I do when because what you do is completely valid, Evan. What I'm saying is that when when you segued it into only three artists, you have a little bit more creativity and freedom to kind of make that flow seem like it's a show. What I mean by that is we open the show usually with three deep cuts, right? You get three deep cuts, and those three deep cuts basically give you the momentum. Even though the people won't know what you're doing, that doesn't matter. When you have the momentum and you hear and you grasp the audience attention like we do, those three deep cuts, they don't care what those songs are. You're just grabbing the momentum. And then after that, boom, hit, boom, hit, boom, hit. And then you can go back to, hey, we're going to give you a song, all right? We're going to give you an Elton John song you haven't heard, right? But we're going to give you that song, and this is a learning experience. If you don't like that song, okay, but at least you heard it. And if you liked it, that person might go to iTunes or Spotify and listen to it again. And you just introduce somebody to new music on top of giving your show more momentum. As long as you space out the deep cuts with the hits or something that people would be familiar with, you should be okay. I would even argue that that would probably be okay with a general cover band. But I mean, I'm not too familiar with what your set list. If you're gonna do, well, if you're gonna do Jimmy Buffett, you need to do Brown Eyed Girl. But like we have to do Paradise by the Dashboard Light, Piano Man, and your song. But everything else is kind of up for grabs.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah.
Do you get what I'm saying?
No, yeah, for sure. And I'm not saying all the songs I play are hits. Like I'll pull up one of my
Because if you do
My
it, if I would recommend you sliding in some deep cuts, even open with deep cuts. Just be like, hey, these are songs that maybe you can be introduced to. Because if you're introducing somebody to something new, I think you get more out of it than just playing something they want to hear.
yeah,
Uh, yeah,
don't disagree with you at all. It's also just one of those things like, oh, does this work? Does it not?
it's a roll of the dice. It's live too, so you'll never know. It's
You
all
never
about
know,
yeah. It's all
but
about also reading the room.
with trial and error and enough
Yeah.
drinks, I think people will get it. So moving on, you have your band. What is the name of your band, by the way? I actually don't know.
Okay, it was originally called the River of Paradise, which comes from two things: the River of Dreams, which is in the middle of the night. You probably heard that song, by Billy Joel, and Paradise by the Dashboard Light by Meatloaf, and it's those two names mixed together. The new name, incorporating Elton, is the Wonderland Express. Where that comes from is actually a little bit more macabre. Meatloaf's backing band is called the Neverland Express. All right. Wonderland, where that comes from, is Mona Lisas and Mad Hatters. That term is what Elton John uses in one of his deep cut songs to call New Yorkers. So you get the New York reference along with the Meatloaf backing band reference. Loosely, it's the Wonderland Express. And it kind of rolls off the tongue. The official name is the Wonderland Express, a tribute to Meatloaf, Elton John, and Billy Joel. I think that even if the Wonderland Express doesn't immediately grab you as something Billy Joel or Elton John related, it kind of has that flair. So
that logo could be really saucy too. Imagine a freaking train.
I may or may not have asked somebody to make one and paid them. So I'll figure, yeah, because I'm good at Photoshop, but I think somebody's a little bit better.
Brian Ward, wherever you are, I'm pretty sure Chris Clark asked you. He didn't even tell me this. I just know.
All right.
So then from there, you went to St. John's, and then when did you graduate?
I don't remember. Give me 1 second. Let me do the math.
2014, 2016, 2017, 2018, 2019.
I think I graduated Bucks County Community College in 2012. I was at St. John's University for 4 years. So it was June 2016 I graduated.
Okay. And then all of a sudden, how did you stumble across the Schmoedown? Because you gave us a loose leaf at first, but now let's actually get into it a little bit. How the hell did you end up falling in love with the show about movie trivia?
All right. Yeah, I'm gonna say this because yeah, okay. When I was growing up, my dad loved a film called Free Enterprise, directed by Robert Meyer Burnett. And Rob, I found I just was doing a YouTube search about, and as I was watching looking about up Free Enterprise, and I found the heroes match with Wolves of Steel, I think it was. And
that's late in the game too. That is late in the Schmoedown.
It's late in the Schmoedown, yes. And after watching that, I was like, damn, this is really cool. And I binged everything. And then I started to get involved in the Facebook group. And I made eventual friends with Rob and Bibiani, who I saw his match with Andrew Aker, and I was immediately like, yes. This is another character that's similar to the characters I like. He plays a character with a lot of charisma and a lot of like, he fills the screen with a lot of energy. And I just gravitated towards Bibbs. And
growl.
Yeah, growl. And the rest, because back then, I don't want to. I think I was the most active person in that Facebook group with what I was posting, and I made a lot of enemies back in the day. People hated me, but again, I caused a lot of chaos. I was my own kind of character heel in the actual like Facebook group off the show. I was probably the biggest heel that wasn't on camera. Those were good times. That was 2017, right? 2018. That year.
Yeah.
Was great.
2017 was the big year.
Yeah. So yeah, and after I got introduced to all of this, I got the attention of Take Three. Was on a live show where my video was vertical and you guys hated my quality, and I almost didn't get invited back. And then I got invited back, and then I got you guys Robert Meyer Burnett for the show, and then I joined Take Three, and then we made the summit and suddenly soundtracks. Um,
Let's talk about suddenly soundtracks for a
yeah,
second, because I will still contend that's easily one of the best shows like in our community. Period. Um, does a lot of things that a lot of other shows don't, especially in terms of production quality, but also in terms of just straight up guests. Week after week, you continue to prove to the community, and you do a lot of showing and not telling that you actually care about the guests that you bring on. You have a diverse amount of
it's
people
very
who come
diverse.
onto your show, and you do what you can. But people don't actually realize that. But that's something that I know myself, PJ, Max, we all appreciate. It's like if you look at who's on your shows, it's a diverse group of people.
It's as diverse as I do that on. I have women, I have people of color, I have anything that I just I. It's a very very inclusive because everybody loves musicals. I recently had Alonzo Giralde, who he's not been on anything in this community. He is freaking an awesome person. So is Mark Edward Hoyk, and he's been on two shows. And Video Drew's been on, obviously Bibbs, Rob, Kristen Smith is a regular, Rachel Silvestrini, Janine the Machine, Alex from Call to Action. There's a lot of, and even the old episodes of Take Three, I still contend are probably the best stuff on that channel. Um, it's just a lot of good. When I first brought the show up to, I think it was, I forget who I brought this up to, was in the group chat with doing suddenly soundtracks. Um, it was it's a show based on, there was a show that isn't on anymore, that's died to the internet depths on a site called That Guy with the Glasses. A guy named Paul made a show called Music Movies. It was a 20-minute show where he just went through the movie song by song and said what he thought of it. And he would give a best and worst, and it was that's what kind of inspired Suddenly Soundtracks. Obviously, with Suddenly Soundtracks, we go in depth of a song, and we actually judge it not by the movie itself, but by the soundtrack and the music, not by anything other and in between. But yeah, it's just not a lot of shows delve into soundtracks and music, and yeah, I just love it.
And with that, what was your first episode? Because I don't. Was it Little Shop with your friend?
It was Little Shop with one of my best friends, Don Gormanley, who does the Billy Joel. Who's the Billy Joel part of the Billy Joel Elton John Meatloaf band. He's a fantastic singer, and he's joining me, Max, and PJ for, we're gonna reprise Little Shop soon and do a recording of it and go through that. Little Shop is, again, my favorite. It's the one that, it's the namesake, obviously, of the show. Suddenly Soundtrack, Suddenly Seymour. Yeah, a lot of actually good episodes were there in the Take Three era. There's we did La La Land. There was Beauty and the Beast with Jacob and Vanessa. There's a lot of good ones.
And what we have coming up tomorrow could, not to overtake your show, but could honestly be one of the biggest, most hyped Suddenly soundtracks yet.
Oh, it's gonna be the most watched because of Hamilton. The reason why, guys, before you guys, if anybody's wondering why I'm not on it, is I don't like the music of Hamilton. I do not like the music. I love the show. It's a fun show. The music in general just is. I don't want to talk
Guys,
about.
before Chris keeps
Yeah,
going on, don't let him lie to you. He literally sent me a text today. Hamilton's growing on me.
I was about to. The show, the music has been growing on me, but at the end of the day, I still feel like that show should be for people praising the everlasting shit out of the musical,
Yeah.
loving it. I don't want to be Mr. Prickly Pants being like, oh, I see what you guys are saying, but I'm going to give this a one time listen. No, I don't want to be that guy. That works for any other episode because I want that viewpoint. But when you're doing a show, so, especially in this climate, that's just so ingrained with with how many people love it, you look like a total dick if you hate it. And I don't want to be that guy. And I was like, you know what? You have 4 people that have so much passion for that show. I'm just like, you guys would make a better episode with just doing it yourselves.
As you can say, Chris Clark is looking for a mind at work.
Yeah, I know, but it's just like, I hope you understand that. I think it's a smart move to just let you guys go. I don't think I would fit in that conversation.
I do hope you're in the comments though. I definitely like want you there to experience the utter chaos yet like celebration that is going to be.
It's going to be interesting to see my show format hosted by you. And the chaos is going to ensue.
Do you have it prepared for tomorrow? Do you have everything where it needs to be? So like I can pull up the Suddenly Soundtracks rules and pull up the different things.
I will admit that I've been procrastinating. I would do that after the stream. Way to call me out, bitch.
Chris, you're handing over your show to me. I need all the resources in line.
I don't care.
You do though.
I do care a lot. Oh, it's gonna be chaotic. Yeah, but yeah. Suddenly Soundtrack is my I loved it. Yeah.
So yeah, and are you proud of what you've done with it? Are you proud that like it's now become, I would argue, a staple in our little community?
It does what it does. I mean, I do it for myself. I mean, it's not necessarily a bring in the big views kind of thing. It's more just for me to keep. It allows me to keep in contact with a lot of the people that I lost contact with because I'm just not actively producing the rundown anymore, just because of stuff. Yeah.
Which we'll get into really quick, but Mike says it's just live or is this pre-recorded? It's gonna be live, baby. Live at 10 p.m. EST, 7 BST.
It's live. Yeah, it's live.
Get fucking ready. Okay, but then we'll get into that.
It's the first Suddenly Soundtracks that's live that does the format. It's not a top 10 list. It's a format. I want to see how it does too live, because if I'm like in a bit of a pickle with work, I might just end up doing a couple Suddenly Soundtracks live if it works out.
So then, Chris, you're a part of Take 3 now, and I'm gonna pat myself on the back for this one. I definitely feel like I put you in a position where you could edit a lot and show off your skills to not only like the viewers of Take 3, but also to the Schmoedown community, like with the summit, with live with Take 3 and stuff.
Oh yeah, let me get into this. Before I get into to how I took complete advantage of that, Abe Flores on Take 3 Productions, my predecessor, is what I consider to be one of my own. He's one of my only equals in terms of how to. I can go to Abe and we can kind of talk. We could kind of talk about what to do and how to kind of make this work in Photoshop and Premiere, because we were both. He has the same sort of knowledge, and he has the same. I would contend Abe is actually more skillful at me than doing logos. He's more skillful at me than doing certain graphic kinds of things. I'm good at editing, and I can get thumbnails out and they'll look pretty pristine. Abe's could look even better and does look better. He's a phenomenal person, and his job on Take 3 cannot be underestimated. I'll
shout out Abe too. Like Abe's what made Abe's shit is what made Take 3 what it is. Yeah. He took it to the next level, and he's also one of the funniest people in this community. Burn a freaking dollar bill on air. No one else does that.
We need to get him on Family Game Night again. But what I was about to say is Evan did put me in that position to kind of get the ball rolling and get some production quality out on stuff that Abe just didn't have time to do. And doing that, I took over the summit. The summit started when I was there. I forget the origin of the summit. I would have to rewatch.
What happened was the summit existed, but it didn't really exist yet. And then you and Jacob started producing the show together. You, Jacob, and Kristen were like the 3 producers of that show. And my God, that show was just flames. Like, it was so good. And
it was so good.
The fact that it doesn't exist is sad to me to this. Like, it exists, but not in the capacity that it did, because there was a lot of time put into it. And I don't blame people for stepping back from how much time was put into it. But the fact that like it doesn't exist in that capacity right now still makes me devastated, because it was so fucking good.
when the summit was when it was me, you, Kristen, and Jacob doing the summit every week with Matt Kearns occasionally, and that production that I was able to kind of keep. That's what I consider to be probably the best sort of era, quality wise, of Take Three. Was that era when we were we were also nominated for that we were the first after show to be nominated too at the awards, because of all that stuff. The summit was fun. I loved doing the summit, and everything I learned and did during the summit, Christian saw. And I'm not going to get into this because it's sort of like a lot of behind the scenes. But when he saw that, he asked me to be a part of, um, to help produce the rundown and transition them to video. And when that happened, all that stuff I took and had with the summit went to Brad and Frank, and I made their show as good as I could. We all three of us went through hurdles together, and because I was put on rundown, I met two of my closest friends. They're brothers still. I love them to death. I treasure every single moment of those 2 years I was on rundown because of everything that's on. And I'm thankful for the summit and everything with Take Three. But if that didn't happen, I would never have been put on rundown with two of my best friends. So rundown to this day is some of the best stuff ever. We did a lot on rundown that you couldn't do easily because everybody was stuck with Google Hangouts, or you had to learn OBS. There was no StreamYards. So everything I did in Rundown live was what we're doing here now would have needed to be done in OBS with Windows and importing Windows and graphics and stuff. We're able to do this now just here on this website for StreamYards. But this in particular, this kind of setup would have been easily an hour plus setup for
Oh yeah.
OBS. So we did that for 2 years, and I started to get burned out by the Schmoedown, and I had a lot of personal stuff. I wanted to focus on job and making money for my family. So there's a lot of other personal stuff with that. It had nothing to do with the Rundown Boys or anything like that. It had to do with me. So but those 2 years of Rundown were great, and I love them to death. And I owe that all to Take Three and the stuff that you guys allowed me to do.
So then, and then so you take a step back for personal reasons, which I've done, and I am probably, there's definitely, if I foresee my own future, it definitely happens again. We all get busy. School's gonna kick my ass. You know, we're gonna have to go back to work, and we're gonna have to refigure out how this is possible. But you know, there's a time and a place for all this happens, right? However, you're taking your break, and then COVID hits. I forget how this happens, but the PJ Campbell Network was something that we were talking about for a while.
I know that in one of the many group chats we have, everybody has group chats, PJ was trying to get me to bring back Suddenly Soundtracks on his podcast feed.
Oh yeah, I know. PJ and I would text each other every other day saying we need Suddenly Soundtracks back.
Yeah, that's the main thing. And the only reason why Suddenly Soundtracks stopped was two reasons. One, YouTube is a piece of gosh darn shit when it comes to copyright claims, because it's under free use to be a film review, and that's exactly what Suddenly Soundtracks is kind of categorized as. Even though we're judging by the soundtrack, it's a film review. The clips we're using are for review purposes, and every time we're in the clear. But those copyright claims kill you when you're trying to give momentum to your video. So on Take Three, where the intention was crap, it wasn't worth doing that. It wasn't worth going through the production of Suddenly Soundtracks only for it to get blocked, and then there's nobody who watches it.
It gets frustrating. It definitely gets frustrating to be like.
Still gets frustrating because it still happens on here. The difference is there's a lot of momentum here that it never had before, and I was like, you know what, this is a group of people that I think this can thrive in. This feed is going to be great. It's just a matter of finding time to do it. And because of bringing back Suddenly Soundtracks, I now have guests that like Alonzo's going to come back. A lot of like Bibbs and Whitney are coming back. There's a lot of people I get to talk to again that I only got to talk to because of Rundown. And yeah, so it was good to reconnect with everybody. So doing this was more a benefit to reconnect with everybody than anything else.
But and then also the famed treasure too, Family Game Night came back, and I forget how and in what capacity we decided to bring back this atrocity, because Family Game Night, like, let's not lie to ourselves, was a fucking disaster in all the right ways.
Family Game Night. In a little context, was when I first asked Take Three, the group chat, what they thought about doing a video game night. Everybody was at first like, no, this is a movie review channel, focused channel. This, you shouldn't do something gaming wise. It's not our audience. Turned out when we did our first family game night, it turned into late night with Take Three, unscripted. And it was very, very like X-rated, and it was fun because you could just be yourselves on camera, and you were just
Also, Late Night
chilling.
with Take Three, what a show when the pieces were moving. That's also all due to the part of you, like
Late night with Take Three had
you and Abe.
only existed with us for like 3 episodes. that iteration of it. It was the Take Three podcast before
It was
that.
so good though. It was
It
so
was
good.
it was so good. But again, that's just a product of the time. But again, with Family Game Night, it's really just simple. It's just a game night where you're just. I'm surprised in the actual space itself. There's still nothing like it. There really isn't, not in this space. I just people playing games. That's essentially what it is. And now when
Yeah,
it's on here, it's more of a multiplayer experience. It originally was everybody's commentating, one person playing a game or two people playing a game. Now it's everybody's involved and it's good. I wish
it's
we
turned into
had
a true family game night.
humanity.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's turned into a true family game night, and I think what I like the most about it too is like the fact that like we all come together and there's a real true sense of community whenever we play. Like the
oh,
same
yeah.
people in the comments always come around, and like we're all hanging around with our people, and it's really it's also really warming because we have people like Kristen who come on, John, Ralph makes an
Kristen and
appearance, Ross
John,
makes an
I
appearance.
would say that since Family Game Night, I would consider Kristen Smith to kind of be the third wheel in that Family Game Night kind of thing. Like she's always, I always consider her to be the necessary person to be on because like me and Kristen had some great Family Game Nights on Take Three, and just having her there was just a comfort that I really feel like. And her and John are great, and it's always great when I can say something and she
Yeah,
dies laughing. And so yeah, I wish I was doing that stuff on purpose too, because I cringe at the stuff I've done. So
so Chris, you know this was coming. You should know it by now. You've produced enough of these shows. We're gonna come to a close here because I think we've covered a lot of what I wanted to talk about with you.
this was a good episode.
We have a segment on the show
No, we don't.
called Famous Last Words.
Oh, the name that I
The
I
name
gave
right
you.
above you. And it's up to your interpretation about how you want to do it. It could literally be your famous last words, or it could be some philosophical thing that you want to give out, or it could be like you go get shithoused somewhere. What were your famous last words before you went to go get shithoused?
Okay, I'll say what my famous last words are, and this might be a little deep. All right, you ready for this, Evan?
Strap in.
All right, cool. At the end of every show that we perform, you said yourself. I'm gonna actually segue into what you were saying, was that you should always end big. You should always end your show with a bang. How we end our show is with a vocal and a piano performance, which is subtle and soft, and it's only a paragraph long. And I contend it's one of the five greatest songs ever written, even though it's not famous in any way, shape, or form. Just what it says and what it means to me is what I consider to be the greatest close of anything you can say, do, or perform. It goes like this: a picture postcard, a folded stub, a program in a play, filed away photographs of your holiday. When your mementos turn to dust, that's the price you pay for every year's a souvenir that slowly fades away. Cherish what you have. Know that it will be gone tomorrow, but always be thankful for what you have. Bada boom.
So what's that mean to you?
Exactly that. It means you gotta, when you're looking at the past, don't dwell on it. When it fades away, it fades away. That's the matter of life. But always make sure that you're optimistic and you see the future ahead. And yeah, that it just, it's a good way to tell your audience we're thankful. And when you live a life of performing and being on camera and editing, you're still kind of there for an audience, whether you're
Yeah.
an editor or whether you're a performer or whether you're a filmmaker, you're there for your audience. And if you can leave them with any note, just leave them with be thankful for what you had and what you saw. That show was great, but that show is done. Move on, and you'll be happy because you at least have that show in your heart. So yeah, or whatever art you have stays with you.
All
That's
right.
me. Is that
Was
deep?
was not expecting that. I should have saw this coming, but I didn't.
Oh, by the way, that was from a song called "Souvenir" by Billy Joel. So listen to "Souvenir." It's only 2 minutes long, but ending a show with that, especially with what's happened in this day and age, just a little bit of optimism. So yeah, "Souvenir." Check that out on Spotify. It's only a minute and a half, but yeah.
My famous last words and just in a lot of situations, and I think you can relate to this, is sometimes when you're a cover band, you have difficulty learning new songs because sometimes you're just not into as others.
Hmm.
So my famous last words in this situation was I've been having the problem of trying to learn new music because I'm just like, that's good. I'm enjoying playing it, but you don't feel it.
You have to feel
My
it though.
famous last words are we're learning Better Man by Pearl Jam.
Oh, okay.
If you don't know, Better Man is a song I want to say off their third record, Vitology. And it's a great song. And it means it's becoming slowly becoming meaning a lot to me, especially with what's happened in my past life and all that. But I wanted to throw in something music based because I thought you'd appreciate it since you are
I
the
did.
music man.
Cool.
I
Okay.
highly recommend listening to it, Chris. Great song. But with that, we're bringing famous last words to a close. Do you have anything you want to say before you plug yourself out of here?
This was great to talk to you, Evan. It was. Do you want me to give my plug now?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. You guys can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Chris Clark 8788. Those numbers mean nothing. Be sure to check out Suddenly Soundtracks on Wednesday, hosted by Evan Hamilton. Make sure to check out Suddenly Soundtracks on Saturday, which I don't have a thumbnail in here, but we just released 1776 with Alonzo Duralde. So it was. If you haven't seen 1776, it's a great sort of mirror to Hamilton. There's been a lot of comparisons online by everything from the New York Times to everything about how 1776 and Hamilton really complement each other because of their viewpoints. Hamilton really is like, for all intents and purposes, it really shows you that era in the best way. Whereas 1776 is real. It's everything that really happened. It's like a biopic, and the whole and it focuses on the whole situation where it's hypocrisy about slavery and the freedom of America. So there's a lot of stuff with that. So they're both great films, and they're great. And just make sure to check out 1776 if you've overlooked it because of Hamilton. So yeah.
All right, Chris. Thank you so much for coming on. This was, I would hope, in a highly anticipated episode. We're gonna make sure we push a little bit more, so we can get some eyes on it. Who lives, who dies, and who tells Chris Clark's story. See you later, dude.
See you about keep rocking.
All right, guys, that was episode 10. We have made it 10 episodes into Famous Last Words. I do want to give a big thanks to both Chris Clark. He's the one who's made all these graphics possible, making these episodes look good. He also came up with the title for the show. I also want to give a big shout out to PJ for making all this possible, being able to have a platform to do this idea that I've had for a long time. I like just letting people's stories and communities that maybe you don't know about, not the communities, but the people who you really might not know their stories, and having their stories told. And that makes me happy that we have this platform. And last but not least, I just want to thank all my guests for coming on. You guys are making the show possible. You guys are the only reason I'm able to interview people. So again, thank you guys so much. With that, make sure you guys check out Hamilton on Wednesday. Gonna be a really good time. I can't wait to talk about the musical that goes and then Psych. We're doing a Psych watch on Friday. That's gonna be hella exciting. Something about a pineapple. If you like pineapple juice, then we might know something. And then Family Feud on Saturday. Make sure you guys check it out. It's gonna be a really good time. And with that, you guys can find me on Twitter at MDeGraff Live. Follow me on there for all my updates on random stuff. I like just having conversations with you guys. Like if I tweet and you reply to it, I'll probably talk to you. So why not? Let's have a conversation. And with that, I'll see you guys later.